some brakes.
Oh, look at Brian French trying it around the outside, and no, not going to happen. Connor takes it.
And Connor took it to a dominating win. Everybody expected the same here. He was fast early, but he didn't qualify up front. We'll settle it on Speed Vision. Welcome to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and Speed Vision's exclusive coverage of the 38th Annual 2001 SCCA Valvoline Runoffs. We are here to settle the Formula Atlantic National Championship. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Kramer. I'm joined by Tommy Kendall, Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish down in the pit lane. And fastest class. This is hands down the quickest cars here at this facility this weekend. And from all looks of it, it's not going to be the runaway we've seen in the past. It could be very close indeed. This now, Tommy, as you look at it here, is a quick description of what an Atlanta car is.
And these cars are identical to the cars that run in the Pro Series. Very, very quick cars. Purebred. The rate of development, some of these classes stay about the same speed year over year. There's just quantum leaps. When the new RT41 came out, a big leap ahead of the Swift, etc. The Swift when it came out. So a lot of technology in these cars, really sexy race cars. A lot of guys come out of here and go on to bigger and better things.
Now, Dorsey, you raced Atlantic cars as well. Tommy was talking about the development. They started as flat bottom cars, but now they also utilize the ground effects. We'll talk about that in a moment. Remember I said everybody expected Larry Connor to walk here again. Didn't happen. Keith Lively has come alive here and put it on pole. Connor second. Austin Yelkin driving one of the brand new Swift Pro cars. Good run for him. Mike Giangardi ends up fourth. Chris Kaiser. All of these guys in with a shout all the way back to 10th spot. That's Tom Dooley. Let's take a look at the rest of the field as we're closing in on the start of this one. Jacek Muka and David Vandenberg. An interesting story with him. We're going to talk about that in older chassis. He's really hustling. But first, let's go down to Calvin Fish, who earlier checked in and talked about the top three qualifier.
When you talk about the most competitive category at the runoff, sometimes people think that is Formula Atlantic. We're looking at Arsene Yelkin right now on the pre-grid. He had Alex Barron, an IndyCar driver, in his car this weekend, testing and developing that car, putting a setup on it. Here we go to Larry Connor's car. He's the defending champion. He has Tom Knapp, an IRL championship winning crew chief, working on this car for 2 weeks. But the real surprise is on the pole. Keith Lively in his second race here at the runoffs. Last year he finished fifth. He's taking a nice swig of cold water right now as he prepares for the off here.
Well, we'll get back to that. There's the green as they're trying to hustle to beat the darkness that's falling here. Lively, the blue machine to the inside. Connor up around the outside. And boy, that was a huge move down to the inside. I couldn't quite pick the number of it. It looks like Arsene Yelkin may have dropped off just a little bit, unless that was actually him who cut down low.
That is Yelkin.
That is Yelkin.
And I know the front row guys actually were expressed they wouldn't come out and name names, but there was some concern about Arsene Yelkin. Very, very young guy in top first-rate equipment, but not as much experience as these guys up front.
And as Calvin mentioned, they had Alex Barron come here and do some testing, and they played a little game because Connor was here testing at the same time. So they sent Barron out in Yelkin's helmet. He went out and Connor was checking times, wondering where did Yelkin find the speed when they pull in right to the garage, shut the door, and then Yelkin would walk out like he'd just been in the car. But look at Connor trying. No, Lively shuts the door, and I'll tell you, Keith Lively has really come on form here this weekend.
We're talking about technology, but when I ran these cars years and years ago, they were flat bottom cars. When they went to this ground effect setup, what you have is that every single year a new development can be made and obsolete every other single car. This arguably is the fastest class and probably the most expensive.
Look at Connor, big run, slipstream, was able to juke to the inside. He's already by before the king.
Now that's what everybody was worried about. If Connor did get to the lead fairly early, if he'd check out, and right there's a moment Lively was considering a counter move, but that may have just hurt his exit up into the S's, and he's already lost 4 or 5 lengths, and it's getting worse.
Well, like I was saying, these cars are wickedly expensive to operate in the Pro Series. $1 million bill it takes to run just a handful of races, actually 2 handfuls.
And of course, in the Pro Series, they run a spec tire, but Calvin, that's not the case here, is it?
Now, there's a real tire battle out this afternoon, Greg. 5 of the top 6 on the grid had the Hoosier tires. Larry Connor is the official Goodyear man, and he had a more conservative tire compound he was attempting to use, but with the cold and damp conditions we've had all week, he was really had to move his hand there in terms of what he wanted to use. He wanted a much softer Goodyear compound. They're a little concerned because all of the testing they've done, they've been here for 2 weeks, has mainly been on the harder compound. So right now he's got a fast race car, but will it last the distance? Will they have the balance? That is the key this afternoon for 20 laps.
It's going to be interesting to watch it unfold. I mean, his run last year was just crushing in terms of margin of victory, and it was down to speed. There's Yelkin, but I'll tell you, Mike Biancardi right here in the Injected.com, Ralt RT41, and Chris Kaiser right behind them. Both those guys are really starting to pressure the youngster.
You know, we look back here in the field a little further and you get a 1-year-old car, 2-year-old car. That is a huge deficit. You can't just overdrive. But these guys are giving it all they got. Pop for the position down into the brake zone.
But is it enough? And Yelkin is able to hold them up. And one thing, Yelkin's driving the new Swift chassis. That is the spec. Oh, look at that move around the outside. Beautiful pass by Kaiser right around the outside of Biancardi. And when Biancardi got a little bottled up going in the S's, Tommy, Kaiser was there.
Well, usually that's a long way around, but that's what we call Buffalo Boy style. Around the outside, around the outside, around the outside.
So you're saying it was good to go around the outside?
I think that's what I was trying to say.
And these guys got enough grip, unlike other cars that make so much time for us. They can do maneuvers like that around the outside and find the necessary grip not to go flying off in the trap.
And what I was going to say, one thing about the Swift cars, there was some discussion whether they should allow them into the club ranks. The reason is they make a tremendous amount of downforce compared to the Ralts, but of course extra downforce is also extra drag, and that's where it looked like they may be able to close up on Yelkin, but boy, in the braking zones, that downforce really comes into play.
Well, and where do you draw the line? I mean, they didn't do that before when the RT41 came along, so I mean, you can't stand in the way of progress, and that's this has always been sort of a vanguard series where people come and they want to see the latest and greatest. So some of the guys might complain about running against that new Swift, but they've just got to go figure out a way to get one in their own garage.
Well, and it's an interesting deal too. You've got up front now a Ralt RT41. You've also got Yelkin in the brand new Swift. You've got the RT40 at Kaiser, which is just an earlier variant of the 41. And now running in fifth, you got Bernie Sunnier, the number 19 Hoosier Tires machine. That's one of the old Swift PB4s.
Now, Bernie Sunnier and I went to a million battles together in Formula Atlantic because he's been in that class for a long, long time. Now, most of these cars are running on Toyota 1600cc twin cam engines, but not all of them. You can also run a Mazda rotary. A couple cars out there with Mazda power.
Well, you see the flames coming out of the blue car. That's Jacek Muka, who is doing exactly that. And another driver we're going to be watching, David Vandenberg, running an old RT4. I mean, that's fairly ancient technology compared to some of the other stuff out there. And he's even welded in a great big full roll cage, like a sprint car on it. And he said, yeah, it's extra protection, but it helps stiffen that chassis up just a little bit. They love their racing here in Atlantic. We'll be right back.
Exclusive coverage of the Valvoline Runoffs is presented by Valvoline. You can always tell the guys who use Valvoline.
There is your race leader. He's also the defending champion, Larry Connor, the BRS Redline Goodyear tired Ralt RT41. And, the technology, as you pointed out, if you're driving a Ralt RT41, it's not that much different from another RT41. You have to give a lot of credit to Larry Connor. The guy, I've been here since Monday watching out on corners and the like. The guy is breathtaking around this track. He really is a superb driver. And for Keith Lively to have dug deep and found pole speed is an achievement as well.
Well, another thing maybe we touched on in the open, I was walking through the garage area and I saw Tom Knapp, and Tom Knapp, in my estimation, is one of the top crew chiefs in motorsports, period. And he's kind of between gigs right now. A lot of talk about him hooking back up with Greg Ray for an IRL team, but right now he's here with Larry Connor, and so it's not a surprise that thing is very well prepared.
Now here's that one old Ralt right there, the red car, being chased by Jacek Muka. Both of them are Mazda powered, and you can see that full sprint car cage on that first car of Vandenberg, and then Muka. And I remember Muka bolts on some side pods and turns that car onto a C Sports racer as well. But right now we're keeping an eye on Dave Vandenberg driving the Vandenberg scales and Rice Lake Way, a Ralt RT4.
I was going to say, all this high-tech stuff is great, except for one thing. It takes somebody very, very high-tech to understand it and to make it work, and not all of us are that way. That's where a guy like Steve Knapp is a necessity. I mean, because these cars, just because it's all there doesn't mean you can get it all.
Vandenberg continues to hold off Jacek Muka, and he is hustling the car around. We talked about what a unique program this is with that ancient machinery. Earlier, Calvin Fish spent some time with Dave.
In a class that is now dominated by some of the newer chassis, such as the Ralt RT40 and RT41, we also have one of the new Swift Pro Atlantic chassis in the field this year. It's always great to see one of the old Ralt RT4s in the field. This is a very similar car to the one that I drove back in 1986 and 87 in the Pro Championship, and since 1997 the car has been campaigned by David Vandenberg. David, you were the 1996 IT champion and you made the switch to Atlantic. Why do you continue to plug along in what is somewhat more an outdated chassis now?
It's basically such a fun class to drive in. The power of the cars is unequaled, I think, in club racing. And, you know, this is basically all we can afford right now.
Well, your car has certainly seen some changes over the years. We look at it right now, we see a very distinctive side pod design. Certainly the tail section's a little bit different. But probably the thing that stands out most to the guys in the stands and the people watching on TV is the roll cage structure over the cockpit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I get a little bit of grief about that, especially from the corner workers. They like to call me Mad Max. But anyway, it's a situation there where I felt basically naked after driving these IT cars. So I wanted a little bit more protection. And I think it also helps to stiffen the chassis a little bit.
Well, that roll cage may have an advantage as well, guys, but always great to see some of the older cars out there running against the new equipment, and David's going to be driving the wheels off this thing this weekend.
Well, I'll tell you, that car may not be quite capable of the outright speed of some of these others, but it's not because of the driver. Watching Vandenberg, this guy is later on the brakes, earlier on the throttle, tremendous car control than a lot of other drivers out there. It's fun to watch. I mean, look at this move here. He's going up against a Ralt RT41 right there, and that's the driver doing that job, twitching under braking and throwing it in there. That's absolutely brilliant what Vandenberg can do. Now, Calvin, of course, busy earlier in the weekend when it was a little rainy, but up front, Keith Lively continues to run in that second spot, and he's trying to do anything he can to try and run down Larry Connor, but Calvin, it's just a tough day for anybody behind Connor right now.
Well, it is, but we talked about some of the stellar crews, and we had Alex Barron testing one of the cars with this week. Keith Lively has Kevin Heath there. Now, Kevin, you actually work for a guy we all know pretty well on Speed Vision, Wayne Taylor, double world sports car champion, and you worked on an Atlantic car there in South Africa for him.
Yeah, that was done in 1986. Wayne and I worked on the Atlantics. That was prior to him going to Europe and racing sports cars.
You're here this weekend, you say with Keith's car, he's sliding around a little bit, but it takes 4 or 5 laps for the car to come in.
He's getting better. You said the car was sliding, it normally takes 5 laps for the car to get better. So I think he's getting better, and he's going to go and get him.
Well, he just trimmed his lap times by just almost a second a lap, guys. They think they should have put a bit more downforce in the car for the slippery conditions, so could be a tough day ahead if he's going to catch Connor.
Well, he's just going to have to keep his head about him here and see what he can do, obviously, at this stage. Good look there, Keith Lively. And once again, you out-qualify Larry Connor regardless of what else happens. You have shown somebody that you've got some speed. The problem is we've been tracking things here. Rick Radicek doing some scoring for us up here in the booth. And up front, Connor has been opening it up by anywhere from a half second to a second every lap. He's stretching that margin up. Lively has some work to do. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. There's your leader, Larry Connor. Now, we talked about how fast this class is. Guess what? We're already almost at halfway. About a lap and a half, we'll be at the halfway point. And these cars fly. Top speed in excess of 160 miles an hour. It'll be iffy if they reach that here at Mid-Ohio. I'd say at Road America, they're well over that. But it's the ground effects and the aero on these cars. They are so fast in the corners that they keep that speed alive.
Well, their straightaway speed isn't awesome by any means at all, but the cornering speed is, believe me, above anything else. It is the fastest thing through the center of a corner that can be done. I mean, next to a Formula One car, I think it's probably better enough in an Indy car mid-corner. Uh-oh, trouble here.
That's 07 Jacek Muka. That is the Mazda engine machine. Now, that's an interesting story there. That's a Ralt RT41, but they did a little bit of plumbing work on the back of that and converted it to Mazda power. But Sandy Yang right now, he's struggling a little bit.
Well, his crew chief thinks he actually touched another car, and part of the right front suspension was bent. They brought it on pit lane and tried to straighten it out. They may not have gotten the problem fixed.
Well, yeah, the geometry's gone awry a little bit due to contact. That's going to make that car an absolute handful, I would think.
Well, those are push rod, pull rods. You cannot straighten them out. You can lengthen or shorten them with Heim joints, but if you try to straighten a bent one, you will soon be in the wall.
All right, well, here's a replay. This is a little bit earlier here.
Oh, look at the left front. Look at the left front. It's towed in a ton. See it? You'll see it when it gets by it. He's got the left front towed way, way in.
Oh, yeah.
He's made contact with someone.
Now, here's, they tried, as you said, to fix it, but that's going to affect the handling. Watch what happens here.
Well, there it goes around. But you can see in that one shot that he had a misaligned front end, pretty badly misaligned at that. Now he has a flat spot on the right front on top of it.
So the struggle continues for Jacek. Although you have to, when you take a look at what he achieved this year, he runs out of the Southeastern Division. He's originally from Laval, Quebec, Canada, but now winters in Florida and lives down there. He won the Southeastern Division with 4 wins in the Pro Mach machine here, but it's been obviously a little bit of a tough weekend here. Qualified well back and just has not been able to come to grips with the problem now.
Well, I say whoever engineered the car did a very, very good job, a tidy job of getting that Mazda tucked away at the back there with the big muffler it has to run and so forth. Usually they're just big bulbous things as he's about to go a lap down by Mr. Connor there.
And Connor just picked up the indication from his crew that we are at halfway, 10 down, 10 to go. And he's coming up on Jacek here. The margin of the gap, I should say, between first and second now up to 8 seconds. And Connor's been keeping that half second to a second improvement over Lively very consistent. He's just thrown in some very fast laps. And the one thing we've seen about Connor is that he can run these kind of laps all race long. It's not like the car goes off. It's not like he goes off. He's just really got it figured out. They get the car set up very well, and he can drive it.
And that is one thing about the Atlantics. Generally, they have so much tire relative to the horsepower and so forth that they don't go away. So it's generally that's why the fastest car usually wins.
It was kind of interesting when I was here on Monday. We were up in the approach to the carousel, and that rise, the left-hander that's going to be coming up after here. It's a deceptively fast corner, and you get into it in a big hurry. And every lap, Connor was coming through right here. He was quicker, and he got one lap, came in, and we were just marveling at his speed. And it was the first time I've ever seen him have any kind of mistake, and he dumped it in the gravel for a little bit. He's not perfect, but he's close. We are back at Mid-Ohio, and there is Larry Connor, who is putting on the proverbial clinic, much like he did last year. And Calvin, we were talking a little bit about the fact that I've only seen him make one mistake in the entire week here. He really is phenomenal.
Well, he's doing a great job. I'm here with Tom Knapp, who's been engineering the car this week. Tom, your hand was forced a little bit with the tire choice in terms of compound. We're halfway through the event now. Will it be a factory? It's a pretty good lead.
It shouldn't be. I mean, we can run high 21s and maintain our 4-second gap. We lost a bit there on the 11th lap in traffic, but Larry's doing a great job.
Seemed to be pretty aggressive there on the opening couple of laps. Was that really the plan, to try and make the break to the front early?
That's how you and I like to start the races, Calvin.
Well, Tom and I actually had a great battle in 1987 and went down to the last lap and had a great run together. So we're used to running these Atlantic cars too. They're a lot of fun around this racetrack.
Well, they sure look at Tommy. This gets back to what you were saying about Tom Knapp and his abilities. And we talk about, oh no, Vandenberg slowing, and he's got a problem out there. We'll keep an eye on this. But what I was saying was, we talk about Larry Connor, but you talk about Tom Knapp. Well, you've got a car that's nigh end of perfect. Well, that gives you a lot of confidence.
It sure does. And those of you that are Tom Knapp watchers, you know that was the bubbly, exuberant Tom Knapp.
Good point.
Vandenberg, hand in the air, never a good sign. Don't know exactly. I mean, the car doesn't seem to have any. I didn't see damage or any rolling problems, or maybe something's been let loose in the engine.
Well, it sounded to me when he came off the key holder that the gears weren't being shifted, so
that could be.
He might be stuck into a gear.
I'll tell you, that's a real shame, because there's a guy who you can tell. I mean, he's out there, like Calvin said, why are you out here? You're so hopelessly outclassed, but that's not what it's about for him. He wants to feel the thrill of the Atlantic. He's out there racing past an RT40, so, you know, really scraping it together just to get here, and that's a shame to see that come to an end for him.
Well, to me, that's really the spirit in a way of club racing, because you often see people that have too much machinery for them, and they're out there in a great car and not driving it. Much better, I think, to be out there in a car that maybe isn't the class of the field, but be extracting everything out of it. Then you're driving.
Make no mistake about it. I mean, that car is a newer chassis than what I used to drive. The old flat bottom cars were absolutely thrilling to drive. There's nothing more fun than a car as agile as these that have the power to weight that these have. They're a blast to drive.
And flat bottom, obviously, not getting anywhere near the grip. I mean, you really had to throw those things around.
Well, they've got a lot of tires still per weight and per the power they have. So, I mean, regardless of the amount of downforce it makes, it is really, really a good agile car. But with all this downforce that you're seeing right here, I mean, you look right there where the keyhole, where most cars twitch and have a hard time getting power down. They're just all over the racetrack. That one's on a rail, and that's what Atlantic cars look like now. They just look like they're completely like a slot car stuck to the ground.
By the way, the car that our leader just lapped, number 74, Paul Lasco, in the Triumph Ducati of Detroit Reynard, back in '93 when that car was around, it was the class of the field, you know, for a little bit. So that pace of development that you're talking about has just been phenomenal. As a matter of fact, that's why the Pro Series has gone to a spec chassis with Swift, is because with 3-4 different manufacturers involved, it was, as Dorsey said, obsoleting cars left and right, and they wanted to stop that, keep it at least somewhat affordable to go Atlantic racing.
In retrospect, you know, when I used to race in this class, I bought my car, for the first one for $10,000, the second one for $18,000, and these cars now are well over $150,000. So, you know, things got a little out of hand.
But were you buying new?
No, but I mean, new ones then were still, you know, $25,000 or something. I mean, now $150,000 race cars is a lot of money, and these cars are, like I said, not cheap to operate either.
But Larry Connor, speaking of operating, doing an incredible job up front. We are coming up now on the 3/4 complete mark, so winding this one down and at a great pace. Lively second, Yelkin a quiet third. We want to remind you, Speed Vision's exclusive coverage of the 2001 SCCA Valvoline Runoffs will continue Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Sports 2000, one of the sports racer categories. They run a spec engine. Very close action indeed. Don't miss it. Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on Speed Vision. Well, the news is worse for Dave Vandenberg. He's down in the pit. Sandy, what's the problem?
Well, they had been having handling problems all week, and they didn't have any problems with the motor until now. And one of his crew members thinks it might be a problem with the fuel pickup at this point. And you can see him. He's getting out of the car. Let's get in here and try to talk to him. David, what appears to be wrong at this point?
Well, I'm stuck in third gear right now, so I can't get it out of gear, and I can't shift gears. So I'm done.
You're done for the day. It's got to be a disappointment for you. Your team thought it was a fuel problem.
No, I was trying to pop it out of gear. I was trying to unjam it. This wouldn't happen.
That's a big disappointment for this team. They're not on headset or radio communication, so the crew had no way of knowing what the problem might be. So now they're taking a look.
Dorsey, that's why you get paid the big bucks. Figured that right out, buddy.
Been there, done that. You see him wearing that Hans device. That's an older style Hans device. You saw him climb out of the car. Pretty big guy to come up through that roll cage. He had to turn himself 90 degrees sideways to come up through the center.
We're looking at the battle for ninth here. Tom Dooley out front of this bunch. Right behind him now, 74, Paul Lasco. And looks like they're coming up now, closing in on James Opperman. So a good battle a bit further back in the pack. Ooh, big move there attempted. Didn't quite pull it off.
James Opperman, also a long-time former Atlantic competitor. I competed against him as well, so when I say long time. Oh, no.
Is that Yelkin?
Yep.
Yeah.
Little slide off the end of the straightaway there. And another one.
That's Lasco, and the Reynard has gone around. Now, he was just in that chase mode in that battle for ninth.
I don't know where that one's at.
Of course, Yelkin, the first spin we saw, remember, was that was a spin, perhaps out of a bronze medal.
Well, not to crash and to spin there is a feat in its own right. That is over the top of madness that he must have lost it and spun it. Usually, if you lose it there, you crash pretty heavily on either side. It doesn't make any difference.
Well, you saw from the angle, you come up and over that rise, what's greeting you on the left, and it gets away from you is concrete. So,
plus on the other side of that hill, when the thing gets loose, it drops distinctively down a hill. So if you lose it, you're gone usually.
Let's go back and take a look at what happened to Austin here. Oh, big dive to the inside.
That was a world-class dive bomb there. Way too much speed on that.
That was, shall we say, optimistic.
Bit optimistic.
He came from Cleveland to try and make that one. Gathered it back up, but of course now it looks like Mike Biancardi has gone around him. Yep, there's Biancardi up front, and he's picked up that spot.
Boy, he lost a lot of ground coming out of the keyhole, didn't he? Oh, here we go again. Didn't stop last time.
I was going to say, I thought we were going to see another replay.
Boy, he sure gets in there deep.
Well, you know, not only does he leave the breaking weight lead, but he turns in, he crabs in early too, which is almost. Well, here's 74 Lasco's loose. Oh, he was loose before he got to the top of the hill. See, normally you just keep going. Those cars have a lot of tire on them.
Yeah. He got away with one, there's no question of that, but it did cost him track time, as it did Yelkin here. They both lost out. Meanwhile, Connor now is working lap 17. Maybe, yep, coming up. We should see a couple of laps to go. Another huge run for Larry Connor here at Mid-Ohio. Ohio, and the battle for third is heating up just a little bit. That's Biancardi in the yellow and blue machine, and there's Ashen Yelkin, and this is the battle for the last medal. Yelkin threw the car off the road a couple of laps ago. Biancardi got by, but Yelkin now trying to come after it. Biancardi in qualifying, his best time was a 1:23.49. Yelkin's was a 1:22.5. So Yelkin maybe has a little bit more in terms of speed.
Well, but he's definitely overdriving it. You see him cowboying it through the keyhole. I mean, he was just on and off the throttle, saw on the wheel, and he's running out of time, so he's obviously pressuring.
Oh, we get a report Connor is slowing.
No way. What we got, a lap to go or something?
We got 2 to go.
2 to go, and this car is in big trouble.
Oh, man, it is. Oh, he's nowhere near on pace, is he? Now, the last margin we had was about 12 seconds.
Could be a stuck in gear problem, could be hard to say right now. It's still under power.
There's Lively just coming in behind him.
It's got a motor, so
it looks like he's stuck in gear because he's through there pretty quickly.
Yep, listen to him.
Wow, this is going to be unbelievable. Lively, I'm sure he's got radio communication. The crew must be telling him, not the second car behind him, first car behind Connor, but the second one is Lively.
Well, if he's stuck in a gear, it's a taller gear because he's going pretty quick, this guy.
All right, well, Calvin, you're standing by with Larry Connor's crew chief.
Oh, trouble here.
Well, Tom Knapp's down here. I'm not sure what's going on track, guys. We're going to get a word with Tom. He radioed in some sort of problem, Tom. He came by real slow.
He seems to have a problem with a wheel. I'm not sure if it's a tire or a wheel problem, but we'll see what he has to say. It's how busy it is here. I don't want to radio him in the middle of a important corner. So.
Never over till it's over, guys. I mean, problems on the corner car. He's had the pace all day. Certainly dominant performance at this stage. Can he hang on?
I think it's a broken suspension. Look at that. That left rear tire, a huge amount of camber change. And he goes in, and here comes Lively. He's coming up. That's a lap car. Lively wants by him now. We are on the final lap, and Lively's going after him. The margin has shrunk to 1.9 seconds officially, and that all happened. About 10 seconds of that went away in this lap.
This is when a driver has a decision to make.
This is scary.
He's got
watch right here. See that tire?
Car that is broken. He knows it. He still wants to win this, and he can be. How hard do you want to drive right now, Tommy?
Well, left rear is going from big-time negative camber to positive camber, so something is deflecting. And
if he can get off the straightaway and get in the corners, he can be hard to pass by being real wide, but can he make it that far? I think he will.
Look at it. It's steering, too. It's deflecting in all 4 directions.
Oh, look at it lean over. Ooh. Left rear completely askew now.
Now, quickly, we also saw Mike Biancardi loop it, so Ashen Yelkin is back in the medal position here. But this is it. Connor hanging on literally for dear life. And Keith Lively is coming after him with everything he can.
This is driving with your guts here. This is all man. That car is broken. Man is carrying the car. And he's got 3 or 4 corners to go, Tommy.
I guess that's the answer to how bad he wants it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I'd be doing that.
Well, it's going to kill him in the carousel here. Lively's caught him. Here we go, round the outside. There's no way he's going to be there. Lively's got to come up with something. He swings out. It is a drag race. And Connor!
Man, he deserved that one, too. Holy cow.
An unbelievable drive by Larry Connor in a badly wounded car. Lively's got to be going, I can't believe what I just saw.
Well, because Lively
Look at this
saw that. He
celebration.
saw that camber change flopping around. Wow.
0.2 of a second. It came from over 12 seconds to 0.2 of a second at the line. But it dropped 10 seconds at first, and then somehow he found speed.
That man there's finding breath right now, too, because he hasn't breathed for 2 laps, I guarantee.
He found something else a couple laps ago, though, didn't he?
Boy, I tell you, I mean, he knew. Tommy, you've been in that situation. I've been in that situation. And you got a decision to make.
Let's go down to Calvin Fish with Tom Knapp.
Tom, that was more excitement than you needed on the last lap, mate.
Yeah, I honestly thought I'd heard them suggest that he pulled off. So, yeah, a little too close.
He really wanted it bad. I mean, to know that the car's broken, he radioed in, and we could see on the camera that the left rear had a big problem there. To actually cut it out and get it to the line means a lot about the heart of Larry Connor.
Larry's a 51-year-old Tiger. That's Larry Connor for you.
Last lap here at Mid-Ohio for you with Atlantics, Tom. I hate to bring this up, but we went down to the wire on a restart. 1 lap to go, and tell everyone what happened.
1987 we're talking about. The old day. Calvin and I were struggling around Pro Atlantic race, immediately following the kart race, which is always just drama with rubber everywhere and track really poor conditions. And Calvin and I qualified on the front row, and I led to 3/4 distance, and there was a full course yellow, and neither of us could pass the other despite our best efforts in that up to that point. And on the restart, I had a good engine builder, but my car loaded up a little bit. Calvin got an honest run on me on the restart, and I was able to do nothing about him, same as he hadn't been able to do anything about me in the first part. So one of Calvin's good wins in Pro Atlantic.
That was a lot of fun. I remember it well, Tom. Good to see you in Winter Circle, mate.
Yeah, you didn't want to bring that up. You wanted the world to know. But Larry Connor has served notice. As he said, he's a 51-year-old Tiger. That was one of the most amazing drives we have seen at the Runoffs. It's what it's all about. We'll visit with Larry when we come back. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. There is your repeat Formula Atlantic champion at Calvin. This one came with some drama and an amazing drive.
Well, we're down here. Larry Connor does make it back. There's some conjecture whether it even get it back here to the victory lane. But Larry Connor, this is only the 3rd driver in Formula Atlantic history to get back-to-back titles here. And boy, did he have to work for a dominant performance. Took the lead on the 2nd lap, I believe it was. And Larry going to turn the engine off here. First of all, congratulations on a back-to-back championship.
Yeah, thanks, Calvin. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. I want to thank my crew, Tom Knapp and Jeff Busher, Rosella and Charlie, Goodyear, Redline Oil, all the corner workers. But I want to pay a special tribute to the tragic events of last week and all those people who lost their lives and those brave policemen and firemen who tried to help. And also a tribute to all those people in the future in our armed services who are going to put themselves in harm's way to protect us here in the United States.
Well, the country's certainly showing a lot of heart right now, Larry. You did the same today. Tell us about the problems you encountered on the last couple of laps.
Well, what happened was the car, I mean, they gave me a dynamite car. The car was very good. Frankly, all this week we fought a low grip problem. And the car was like magic, Calvin. And then suddenly, with about 3 laps left to go, one of the rear wheels started to come off. And so I radioed to Tom, and he said, it looks like the left rear wheel is coming off. And when the last lap or two, when I was going down the back straightaway, I had no idea where it was going to go. And when it went into braking, it went any place it wanted to go. Fortunately, we were able to stay on the track.
What were your thoughts at that point? Did you consider just pulling it over, day done, or did you think you could get it to the end?
No, absolutely not. If this had been a regular national race or something, but this is a national championship, Tom and Jeff and all these guys have worked too hard over the winter time, and I made the conscious decision to take whatever chance was necessary and hope it held out.
It's a long 2 weeks here. You guys have been here since last Tuesday testing, I know, and you were regarded as the favorite, yet qualifying, the practice really didn't come together for you. You went to a different tire compound because of the pace of Keith Lively and some of the other guys, and you had to roll the dice a little bit. You really didn't have a car that you had a lot of laps on with this setup.
That's absolutely right. I mean, the car was good last week. Track conditions changed. We tried to make some adjustments. Keith did a heck of a job.
pipped us by a couple of tenths on the thing. But I really felt like we'd have a good race car underneath us, and, you know, the idea was, hey, keep your nose clean first lap or two and then put your head down and see what happens.
Larry Connor, former Atlantic champion, once again, congratulations.
Thanks, Calvin, appreciate it. Thanks to all the workers.
And then put your head down for the last lap or two and see what happens when you got a wheel coming off the car. I mean, that is just bravado in the extreme. That's something special.
Well, I don't know
take a look at the results here.
I don't know if the wheel's coming off or not, but the suspension's broke. I'm telling you, that was a pretty ugly car right then.
That's just amazing drive what he did. Ashen Yelkin recovered after Biancardi's spin. Yelkin did get back and end up with the bronze. Sunier was fourth. Biancardi hangs on for a top 5. Opperman, Dooley, Lasko, we saw those battles. Lasko was able to get back into the top 10 after his off, and that was a pretty remarkable recovery as well. But I tell you the story in this one. Lively, the pole, I mean, he gave it a good go. But there it is, and it is Connor. Man, that's unbelievable.
The nut is run all the way back off into the, see the cotter pin there that's supposed to hold it? That's what kept it on.
Fortunately, the drive pins are long enough, or he would have lost all drive. Wow.
That's just incredible. I mean, they're just trying to figure out a way to get that off right now. But Larry Connor persevered and ends up with a repeat national championship in Formula Atlantic. Amazing. So look at a number of times about thanks to the workers. Well, they're all volunteers. The drivers come here, they're having the fun on the track, but you can't do that without a huge group of incredibly dedicated people that show up and take care of a lot of very important specialties, from when you greet them at registration, sometimes when you greet them at tech at the end, and of course out in the corners. That's the people right there that give the drivers information, help them along, and help them if they have some sort of an incident. And they are a very special group indeed. And the key word there is volunteers. We're looking now live at some of these great workers. They come from all over the country. This is their national championship as well. Each division, there's 8 of them across the country. Hundreds of regions are represented. They all come here. This is their national event. They pay their own way. They pay for their lodging. They get a meal during the day and a party at night. But other than that, it is all out of pocket, and there's one reason for it. They love racing as much as anybody behind the wheel of those cars. They're a very, very special group.
You talked about the spirit of the runoffs with David Vandenberg. Well, the workers are another huge, huge part of that spirit.
They've got their own commune, their own little tent city over there. So they used to be tent city when I was doing it, but now it's motorhome city. But anyway, these guys have more camaraderie. They have as much fun, but boy, do they work hard.
They work incredibly hard, and again, for nothing other than the love of the sport and for the corner workers, because that's a specialty that I spent some time in, best seat in the house, and it allows you to feel like a participant, and it's very special. But we want to get back to what just unfolded on the track, and right now we're going to get down to Sandy Hang, who's with Keith Lively. Boy, he gave it everything.
He did give it everything. You know, Larry was talking about problems with the wheel. Well, Keith had problems. I know you had problems of your own, your crew chief was telling me about. Tell us what happened there in the final laps.
Well, I had a difficulty in getting third gear, which is absolutely essential to make the run up through Thunder Valley. And as I caught up on Larry, who had his problems of his own, I had the opportunity to possibly catch him, but I just couldn't get the car into third gear. But he had driven a great race all day, and you hate to see a race won or lost on a wheel coming off. So I'm pleased for Larry. I'm pleased for us. We made a lot of improvement, and he drove a heck of a race.
Talking about driving a heck of a race, you had the pole, and it looked like you held him back there for quite a while, and then there was that moment when he just jumped and got around you. What happened, and what were you thinking?
Well, Larry got a better run off the keyhole than I did and was able to pull me down the back straight. There was nothing I could do, so I just let him go and then tried to tuck in behind him. Recognizing that we had run some competitive times in qualifying, the hope was that you could run him down.
You're going to try to reel him in then later.
Absolutely. It just didn't quite work out. I think I came up about a car length short.
And you kept trying to, then that third gear wouldn't work.
Well, some people just don't know when to quit, so I just kept pushing and pushing, and you never know with racing. Anything can happen.
Okay, and it almost did. Well, that is your second place finisher, Keith Lively. Good run, second year here at the Runoffs, and he takes a second place. Calvin?
Larson Yelkin makes it onto the podium. A bit of a struggle there last couple laps. Got frustrated with some traffic, but got to feel good to be third at the Runoffs.
Well, I'll tell you what, after 4 years of staying away from racing, this was a treat. And I especially like to thank a few people, especially my crew chief, Konstantin, my engineers, Jimmy Griffith and Bruce Potter, my driving coach, Alex Baron, that teach me how to drive all over again. And everybody, my nephew, my father, and everybody worked very hard, and we'll be here again.
Tell us what it's like to work with someone like Alex. He came in and did a couple of days testing here with you and certainly helped work the development of the car out and probably coached you a little bit around this racetrack.
Well, it's a bit like the old saying, teaching an old dog new tricks, and but I guess it is possible, and I'll be working with him again. He's fantastic. Jim and Bruce and Costa, my nephew, my friend Jack and Bob, and so many people helped. It's just great to be here.
Great performance, a great job of Hoosier tires as well. This is the Swift Pro Atlantic chassis, and they had to come up with a brand new tire, 15-inch rim on this car, and that's really not a spec tire from anyone in the field. So Hoosier built some special tires for Mr. Yelkin here, and they did a great job as well to claim that final spot on the podium.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bruce Foss and the folks at Hoosier are pretty dedicated, and if they can help somebody, they're going to do just that. Interesting, Jim Griffith, that name may sound familiar to people that have watched the coverage of the Pro Series or been at the races. He engineered Buddy Rice to a championship in the Atlantic Pro Atlantic category last year, and Alex Barron, of course, one of the great champions to come out of the Atlantic category recently, and I loved what they were doing to mess with Larry Connor's mind, as I said, putting Alex in the car wearing Ashen's helmet and then having Ashen walk out of the garage looking all hot and bothered. Good fun. We'll be right back.
Is presented by Valvoline. You can always tell the guys who use Valvoline.
And welcome back to Speed Vision's exclusive coverage. We have just wrapped up the Formula Atlantic National Championship here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. About equidistant between Cleveland and Columbus. And we have seen another fascinating race. I tell you, the middle sections of this one looked like it was going to be another yawner, courtesy of Larry Connor, but it certainly swapped up at the last second and got very interesting. And there were some battles outside of the medal positions as well. And I think Sandy's standing by with a guy who had a great drive.
And he had a great time. He took a deep sigh, and it's all over now, Bernie.
Thank you. It was great. It was great fun. It's unbelievable. Every year we have a ball. And what a race. At the start was great.
Not bad for the racing professor, but there were a few dicey moments out there we were just talking about.
Yeah, there were a few, but you know, it's just part of the game, and that's what makes it fun, just to be able to dice with people at times, and that's what racing is all about.
Well, Dorsey is in the booth right now, and he said you did a good job.
Thank you, Dorsey. I really appreciate it. We need to celebrate this one, don't we?
Well, Dorsey, funny, he was just telling me before we went on camera, he said, you got to talk to Dorsey about this. As we get older, it gets a little bit more difficult to get out of the cockpit.
Well, I can understand that. Hard to get out of the cockpit, but he doesn't have to go through a window like we used to have to do down.
He's not exactly rushing out of the cockpit, though, is he? He's savoring the moment here just a bit as well. We want to remind you that our coverage of the Valvoline Runoffs here on Speed Vision will continue Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time, Thursday night, for the Sports 2000 category. It's a sports racer, much like the D Sports or C Sports racer, if you're familiar with those, but it runs a spec engine. Very close competition, should produce some great racing. Don't miss it. Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, here on Speed Vision. Gentlemen, final thoughts?
Well, there is a celebration. Actually, Dorsey Schrader Alligator Hunter is cooking the alligator he caught down in the Glades, and that's over at the motorhome in about 2 hours. So, Bernie, come on over.
So, for all the people that watch Speed Vision, hopefully we'll be able to broadcast tomorrow's races with no guarantee.
12-foot alligator. Dorsey wrestled right out of the swamps and is going to be cooking up tonight. Remember, speedvision.com, everybody. Check it out. All the information here at the Runoffs, as well as any other racing going on. That's your internet source. Once again, just some unbelievable racing here. On behalf of Dorsey Schrader and Tommy Kendall here in the booth, Calvin Fish doing great work as always down the pits. I'm Greg Kramer. Thanks for joining us here at Mid-Ohio for the Formula Atlantic National Championship. This guy has done something very special. He should enjoy it.
Well, Sunday in Atlanta, it was last year's champion who won the